Good morning, one and all. You join me on my dog walking around the Garden of England? Not really. Anyway, enough of that. That wasn't why you came. So the tagline: Are Chelsea the new Academy of Football? I look at a lot of our reserve, more the youth team players, and I've got a lot of questions. Are they good enough to make the step up to the Premier League? And the fact is that, to be honest, by and large, we don't really know, because a lot of them are just sat in the stands. They're playing under 23s football, which, is fine to a point, but we don't really know whether they're going to be cut out for Premier League football. For me, a case in point, Nathan Trott. Now, Nathan Trott went on loan last season to Wimbledon. Now, he didn't rip up any trees, but he did okay for a League One club. So he comes back, and I'm thinking, okay, now maybe the thing to do is to loan him out, see how he goes at a Championship club. You've got plenty to choose from. So surely there must be a club somewhere in the Championship that has an opening for a young, talented, up-and-coming goalkeeper. Nothing happened. Since then, he's been sitting in the stands. He's very, very rarely been involved on the bench. He obviously came on in the FA Cup game at London Stadium against Doncaster for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. So you can't really sort of gauge it on that. So, and there's lots of other players that we're sort of looking at and thinking, well, are they good enough to make the step up or not? Now, at this precise moment in time, we have, out of our first team squad, 8 players out on loan. Now, not all of them are youth team players, mind. Obviously, you've got Winston Reid and Felipe Anderson as 2 men that we've sent out. So the other 6 players, by and large, are youth players that we've sent out to try and get some experience, get some minutes under their belt. When you look at Chelsea, however, Chelsea at this precise moment in time had 31 players out on loan. Again, not all of them are youth players, in fairness. Some of them are players with a lot of experience under their belt that just have no future at the club. Victor Moses, Davide Zappacosta, Bapa Rahman, Michy Batshuayi, obviously he's on loan at Chelsea, Ross Barkley. But they do have quite a lot of players, again, that are young talent, that they're trying to see, are these guys able to cut it at a decent standard, at Premier League standard, and are they players that maybe Chelsea might want to bring into the first team at a later stage? So for me, I think we need to be doing a bit more of that to try and sort of separate wheat from the chaff, find the diamonds in the rough. It's very rare that you are going to find a player of a Declan Rice. For me, Declan Rice is a player that comes along around about once every generation. Last time I saw a player with the entire package that Declan brings, not just in his on-field abilities, but in his mindset, his mentality, and everything else. Last time I saw a player like that was Rio Ferdinand. Now, Rio Ferdinand broke through in about the mid-90s. So as I say, it's once in a generation, once about every 20, 25 years, we will see a player of that standard. So for the rest of them, I would advocate that those players need to be going out and playing against seasoned men, against veteran players that will take these young kids to places that under 23 football can't take them. They just can't. I had James Fever on. We were doing his tier list for next season as far as the current squad is concerned, who would stay, who would go. If you haven't seen it, go on the channel, have a look. James is really intelligent, articulate, considered. Can't say I agreed with everything, but we had 38 players. So, but even in the ones I didn't agree with him on, I could completely understand his training thoughts. So check it out. But he made the point that, we need to be sending these players out. We need to be testing them, and I said that for me, even if it was League Two, the very bottom of the professional ladder, even if we're sending these kids to a League Two club, say Leyton Orient or Southend, whatever, even if they're going there, well, even if they only played 20 games in all competitions, right, which is not inconceivable, I think. I think they would learn more about themselves as a footballer in 20 games in all competitions for in a League Two club than they can learn about themselves in 100 games playing under 18s, under 23s football. It's as simple as that. Not only would they learn about themselves, the club would learn about them, and we'd be able to determine, is this someone that can make the step up to the Premier League, yes or no? You know, and then we can make a judgment, you know, yes, they're good enough, and we bring them into the first team squad, give them minutes, or actually, no, they're not, and we get some money for them. Because another thing that kind of frustrates me is the situation unfolded with another youth player last season, Jeremy Ngakia. Now, Jeremy Ngakia was a right fullback that had, at the time, he had Pablo Zabaleta, he had Ryan Fredericks, and he had Ben Johnson ahead of him in the queue at that particular time. His contract was coming to an end. I don't think there was any real ambition for the club to keep him. And then all of a sudden, for a specific set of circumstances, injuries, suspension, loss of form, whatever it was, all the ins and outs, I can't remember. I'm fairly sure it was injuries, but whatever. He found himself thrust into the first team. He made his debut at home against Liverpool. And he had a very good debut, and he had a good little run. I think he had about 7 games, if I remember rightly, something like that. And all of a sudden, we're like, oh, actually, he is good enough. The problem was his contract was up at the end of the season. And he obviously left and he went to Watford. And it looks like, I think, as the time I'm recording this, I think it's all going to a tribunal. We'll probably end up getting a pittance for him. We'll probably end up getting about £200,000-500,000, which, you know, you sort of sit there and you think, well, if we'd have boxed a little bit clever and maybe been sending him out and finding, is this kid good enough? Sending him out to, you know, a sort of pro club a little bit further down the ladder, you know, maybe a Charlton Athletic, something like that, like we did with Josh Cullen. You know, we could have sort of answered the question. We could have known, is he good enough? Can, you know, and if we thought he was good enough, get him to sign a new contract so that if we do at a later stage move him on, we're going to get a better amount of money for him, because we can turn around to any prospective buying club and say, look, this kid has played at this level. He's proven that he can cut it. There's no question marks. Okay, so we can turn around, if we wanted to sell him to a championship club, say a Brentford, Birmingham City, whatever, right? We could turn around and say, okay, he's a young English right fullback, give us 3 million, 4 million, whatever the case may be, and we get maximum value. We're losing a lot of value. We're losing, you know, we've got too many players that are sitting on their backside. They're picking up a wage, and we don't know whether they're good enough for the Premier League. We don't know whether they're taking up a spot that could be better served to another kid that maybe, that, you know, is you know, as a result of them taking up that spot, ends up going to another club, and, you know, we miss out on a player that could have sort of come in and done a job for us. So we need to be sending these kids out. We need to be loaning them out. We need to be asking questions of them. We need to be finding answers. And it just frustrates me that, like I say, at this precise moment in time, we've got 8 players out on loan, and Chelsea have got 31, and they're finding out about players. Conor Gallagher, he's at West Brom at the minute. He's at a Premier League club. He's a young kid with a lot of potential. I like him. I think he would do a job with us, but that's another story. Chelsea are finding out about him. Now, if West Brom get relegated, which I think is quite likely, they will be able to turn around to another Premier League club, whether it's us or anybody else, next season, and say, this kid, he hasn't got a place at Chelsea. He's got too much competition, and he's, to be brutally honest, he's not at that level right now in his career path. So we're going to sell him, and we're going to ask you for X amount of pounds. Now, it could be 10 million, it could be 15 million, 20 million. And realistically, he would be worth it, I think, because he's been tested in the Premier League. He's been proven that despite the fact he's played in a struggling team, he has been a shining light. So Chelsea can then put a price on his head that's realistic, and get good money for a player that they paid nothing for. Okay. And like I say, I don't want to keep getting in this situation like happened with Ngakia, where we lose a player and basically we get we don't get full value. And like I say, it's, you know, have we lost, you know, as a result of sort of not testing these players, and finding out their worth early enough to bring them through the way that I believe, and I think if you're a West Ham fan of many years, you know, you'll buy into the ethos that we should be producing our own young, local, English, British, whatever talent, rather than spending 30 million quid on a Brazilian, Italian, whatever, Spanish player. Don't get me wrong. Every now and again, yeah, we want to go out and we want to maybe splash the cash and get in a marquee signing. That's fine. But for me, and I think you would probably agree, that you got more of an emotional attachment to a player that comes through the academy system and represents the club. You know, you will be more patient with that player. You'll be more understanding of when that player makes a mistake, which they inevitably will. Even sort of like established internationals of many years standing make mistakes, but you will be more tolerant of those players, and you'll buy into them, and they'll buy into you, and da 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 da. Whereas when you get, say, a Felipe Anderson, you know, straight away he's 35, 38 million, whatever, Brazilian international, coming in from Serie A, Lazio, and you expect him to hit the ground running, and rightly so. But, you know, I just want to get back to the West Ham of producing, you know, the young local talent. And I do ask the question that as a result of us maybe not really pushing these kids out into the big wide world early and really putting them to the test, have we lost our right as a football club to proclaim that we are the Academy of Football? That's the question I'm asking. It's quite provocative. I get that. This has got to get a lot of you going, of course we're still the Academy of Football, Gatesy. And to be honest, I find it quite difficult to even consider asking the question, but I have to. Because Declan Rice aside, I don't think we're bringing players through at the regularity, at the volume that other clubs are. So are we still able, do we still have the right to call ourselves the Academy of Football? Or has that title slipped from our grasp and gone across London to that club sitting on the Fulham Road, bankrolled by a Russian oligarch? That's the question I'm asking. Now, I don't have the answer. Okay. And, you know, quite frankly, my answer isn't really important. However, yours, that's what we want. This is what this channel's all about. We throw the questions out there. We put the scenarios. It's you that we're interested in. We want your answers. Now, there's a comment section below. That's where we want your answers. I want you to get involved. And if you disagree with me, if you think, no, we are still the Academy of Football, put your answer below. Tell me you disagree. Tell me the reasons why. If you agree with me, again, similarly, comments down below. Tell me you agree. Tell me where you think we're going wrong and how we can put it right. Okay, that's a very important thing, because if we are going wrong, we need to put it right as a club. So what do we need to do? And like I say, I think what we need to do is we need to be sending these kids out on loan to as high a standard club as we can. Again, going back to Chelsea, they have, or at least had over the years, a working relationship with Vitesse Arnhem in Holland. send kids out, find out, blah, blah, blah. Bring them back, play them, sell them, whatever. Now, we seem to have developed a little bit of a loose working relationship with Slavia Prague. Is there any value in maybe seeing if they would be prepared to take our kids on loan, test them, because they're playing at a good level. If they can survive in an Eastern European club that's at the top of their league, playing in European competitions to boot, maybe, just maybe, those kids would be good enough to come into the Premier League, or at least we could command a better fee for them because of that than we currently could at the minute when they're just sitting in the stands playing under 23s football and not really doing much. As I say, comments down below. Give me as much information as you can, okay? If you think you agree that we might be on thin ice trying to claim with the Academy of Football, put it in the comment section below. Tell me where you think we're going wrong, what we need to do for going forwards to put it right, or whether I'm barking up the wrong tree. And as I say, put some meat on the bones, yeah? As usual, you can see the ticker down below. Like the video, that'd be great. Subscribe to the channel, hit subscribe, then hit the bell icon, hit all. As soon as we upload any new content, bang, it'll be there. You'll know it's there. You'll be able to watch it, and that's fine. As always, you can find us at Twitter at Forge Talk. You can join us on Facebook at Forge from Iron. I'm Gatesy. I'm still on the dog walk, but I'm homeward bound. And hopefully tomorrow, 3 points against Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds United, and we'll be back to fourth, I believe, back to a Champions League position. Absolutely crazy. Here we are. It's, yeah, the season's, what, 12 games, 13 games, whatever left. And we're possibly talking about Champions League. My God, it's a great time to be a West Ham fan. Lovely to speak to you guys. Thanks for joining me. Stay safe. Come on, you Irons.